Hello and welcome to Patched. I'm your host, Paul James. Today I'm joined by Matto Phillips. How are you, mate?
I have a sore arm. I got a booster.
Oh, boosted. Oh, what, today?
Yeah. No, 2 days ago.
Oh, it's still kicking your ass. A bit.
Oh, the arm is. That
Yeah,
was,
right.
you know how it is.
Yeah,
Kid, like, oh yeah, you're fine. Then 2 hours later, sore arm.
I
Or,
had my booster a couple of weeks ago and was a little bit. Actually, the next day I was probably out of action until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It knocked me about a fair bit, which is the
yeah,
first time
same.
any of the shots had done that.
Yeah.
And
So
then I
I
was
didn't
okay.
move. I didn't move for 6 hours.
Oh, yeah, right.
I just sat on the couch. And went, no, I'm not moving.
Yeah, I was a bit the same. I tried to do little things and couldn't even do that. So that was a few weeks ago for me, and I've got the shits with that because I was told that I had to have it before the end of Feb. Otherwise, I wouldn't be allowed to work, which is fine. I've got no problem getting the booster, but I'm sure you were a little bit the same when they first spoke about it. They said it's most effective if you can wait 6 months. So I was trying to wait 6 months. Then they said, no, you got to get it done earlier for my work to remain employed. So I'm like, oh, fine, I guess I have to do it earlier than I would have liked to. Went and got the shot, and then like 2 days later, go, the vaccination rate's a little bit slower than we would have liked, so we'll give you a bit more time, a month, which would have taken it to the 6 months, and I would have been happy. Oh well, anyway.
Damn, you
Fuck
school.
the education department. So moving on from COVID shots and focusing on a rumor that popped up this past week. It sounds like, and I'm going to personally try and keep all my excitement in check because we've had this conversation after Spider-Man 2 was announced last year and all those sorts of things, that my love of Infamous in particular is very, very great. But there's been a rumor popping up this past week that both Infamous and Sly Cooper, so old Sucker Punch franchises, are potentially on the way back some way, shape or form. And so we were going to talk a little bit about who could possibly make those games, whether it's the old team at Sucker Punch, whether it's someone else that's new, whatever the case happens to be. But I guess before we get to any potential new stuff, we should maybe look at the idea of remasters and those sort of things. What do you see happening in that space for both Sly and Infamous?
Well, I've never played Sly, so I can't really say too much on that.
Yeah, you're missing out there big time.
Missed it out. So I should one day get onto it.
We do
But I
have the
can't-
rumors of Spartacus, the streaming thing, where apparently if you pay at the right tier, you'll get backwards compatibility, and that might unlock some PS3 stuff for you, so you might be able to play the trilogy or something. Even Sly 4, which was after that. So you got some options there.
But I played I played the first Infamous game. Probably don't have as much liking to it as you do.
Oh, look, it's still the weakest of the three, I think.
Oh, well, I better skip through that and play the second one then. if
Infamous
that's
2
the
is
case.
the peak of the franchise, I think.
Oh, wow.
Not that Second Son is bad. Second Son of the PS4 is fantastic, and I think a lot of people have warmed up to it in recent years. But I think Infamous 2 is like the best story, the best combination of powers, and all those sorts of things.
I reckon there'll definitely be a remaster because it came out a long time ago. What was it? 2000 and
2014 was when Second Son came out,
what about the first game?
and the first game was 2009 because that was the same year as Uncharted 2.
Oh, it's well past the remaster. You can do a remaster for
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean, the last was
you make a third.
2013. It's getting its second remaster / remake.
and then you can make a new game to go on top of it.
Yeah,
Everyone will be happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a model that you're seeing. And obviously, we'll talk about the new games, both for Sly and for Infamous soon. But, like, I'm sure you've noticed it too. That's a bit of a model that a fair few companies are going. It's like, okay, let's remaster older games in the franchise. Maybe all of them, if, depending on how big the franchise is. Put those old ones out there, and we can kind of gauge interest. It's a pretty low-cost way for us to gauge interest because the game's already done, so you don't have to develop too much. It's just, HDFI some stuff, 60 frames a second, all those sorts of little basics, and let's put it out to the world and we'll be happy. And so I don't see any reason why they couldn't do something like that for definitely Infamous. I guess Sly, you should really be able to do the same thing, but it has already been remastered once to bring it to the PS3, bringing the PS2 games to the PS3.
So can they
Could
do
do it
a
again.
remaster?
I guess you could. You could even go down the Ratchet and Clank 2016 path and straight up like remake them.
Oh, there you go. bring in the new audience.
Yeah,
It could work. I played Ratchet and Clank and I liked it. Didn't
yeah,
even know, didn't really care what happened in the previous ones because you don't have to know,
yeah. You
which
don't
is
have to know
great.
for 2016.
So that could
The
work.
the game based on the movie based on the game, and I guess like on Sly, before we really dive into kind of what the new stuff could potentially be around both of those franchises. PlayStation clearly has a lot of interest in Sly because it was only 2017 and Sly 3 so the Sly remaster came out like 2010 or 2011 or something like that. And then I think it was 2012 when they put out Sly 4. It was a brand new Sly game. And then it was like 5 or 6 years later and Sony was out of nowhere kind of looking at a TV series. They had like a plan for 100 episode TV series based on Sly. Kind of out of nowhere. So I think even though that didn't end up going ahead for whatever reason, there's clearly like a little bit of internal love there at Sony about that franchise and what they can do with it. And it does kind of have some, even though it's about stealing stuff, it does have kind of a family friendly sort of tone about the whole thing. It's all pretty relaxed. It's always a bit odd if you're going to go like family friendly and then you're going to throw a crippled turtle at you. But
A crippled turtle.
Bentley the turtle is in a wheelchair the entire game. Well, the entire. But
Oh wait, that's
entire
actually
franchise, is it? Yeah,
is that actually a character in the game?
yeah. He's one of the main. He's one of the main team, like the core team.
Oh, so a turtle in a wheelchair. I'm just trying to figure out how that's possible.
Um,
I'm trying to. I'm
anything's
overthinking
possible,
it.
mate. It's a turtle.
I know, but
And
just
there's a hippo, and then there's Sly, a raccoon. So
also, was it a hippo in a wheelchair? Is there just
no,
a turtle?
no hippos in wheelchairs.
Just a turtle.
Yeah, all animals, just as kind of mascot platformers were back in the day. But yeah, I mean, like it's got a real family friendly sort of appeal because it's all pretty lighthearted. Even though they're trying to steal stuff, it's all pretty lighthearted and fun, and they're taking the piss out of each other and that sort of stuff. So I think yeah, there's certainly room for it to work.
So it's not like Dora the Explorer where the old swipe and no swiping.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough Dora. Does she just straight up steal stuff?
I don't know. I haven't watched Dora the Explorer for a while. I haven't watched like Saturday morning cartoons for a while because they're no longer on. It's replaced by
and you're an adult.
news, and that doesn't stop me from anything.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's be honest.
The news does though. The news does stop you.
News
from doing
does.
that
The news does. But
yeah, I guess from my mind, yeah, I think you're right. Look, remaster is probably the right way to go for them. Maybe I could see Sly that potentially not happening because if Spartacus is what people say it is, then maybe the games that have already been remastered, they just say, look, they're part of your free games that you get on the PS3 backwards compatibility sort of thing. Maybe they'll do that. Infamous, I could just as easily see them doing the same thing for at least the first two games, for the exact same reason. But I think there's a temptation to okay, let's try and bundle up those two with Festival of Blood, which was the DLC spin-off to Infamous 2, and then Second Son and First Light. Like we can give you 4 or 5 games here all together, 2 PS4 games and 3 PS3 games, or 2.5 PS3 games, and make a big deal out of it, and then go from there. So I don't know. There could be slightly different paths for both of those, but I think we both agree that some sort of revisiting of the old games is probably the starting point. But going on from there, and I guess all these rumors about Sly and Infamous could, in the end, actually just purely be based around maybe they're just getting remasters or remakes and not actually new games. But the internet does seem to think, or these insiders in the first place are seeming to suggest that they're actually new games. So I guess the question that probably is left begging for both of us is who actually develops these things, because they both came from Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch these days is pretty busy with a franchise that's done pretty well for them in Ghost of Tsushima. So I don't know whether it's whether they want to, but then also whether it's even possible for them to get involved. We might start with Sly. Any thoughts for are there any developers out there that you think would be a good fit to just take on Sly?
well, I did some research on
And
this.
inside and outside of PlayStation, of course, it's always possible they could get someone outside.
Well, I'll go for outside first. I was scratching my head trying to find a company that hasn't been purchased
Well, there's
by
that.
the Sony or Xbox. And I looked really, really hard. Then one came up. and that was Platonic Games.
Oh, oh yeah. Are they owned by Team 17 or do they just do stuff for them?
I'm not sure. That's what I was trying to figure out. I don't know if they're owned by Team 17, but if
I'll
that's
try
the
and check in
case,
the meantime. But
they are for employees that used to work with Rare
yeah,
back in
what's
the
their name again?
Nintendo days.
What did you say the name was? I've gone blank. Oh,
Platonic
Platonic.
Games, and they used to do all those Nintendo games on the 64. If you can think of, if you had a top 10 of games for the 64, I guarantee you at least 5 of them will be by Rare.
Oh, for sure.
And that would be this team. And it's also the fact is the Rare back in those days did third-person adventure games, first-person shooters, racing games, fighter games. So I'm pretty sure this would work up their alley.
Yeah,
And even
I
with
just checked. Tencent owns a little piece of them, but that's it. They don't have an actual.
Oh,
But
no.
Tencent owns a bit of everyone. Tencent owns a bit of Epic, a big chunk of Epic. We can't avoid Tencent these days.
I know, unless it's... No, I don't think we discussed that on air last time. I'm not going to say it now.
Okay.
There was another country that purchased part of a gaming company that made no sense to us. But
Was
we'll
this
talk
the
about
the Saudi Arabian one?
that was the one.
The royal family there buying up SNK and a bit of Capcom and all that. Yeah, what a mess.
Yeah, well, we won't go to that because...
Yeah, we won't wade into that.
No, it's not. Let's not do that.
We'll have a dedicated opportunity. I'm sure they'll buy something up at some point, and we'll be looking for a topic. And okay, let's hang shit on the Saudi government. That's a safe starting point, I guess.
Yes,
What could they possibly do? Crickets. We're in all sorts.
We don't know.
So
Anyway,
yeah, I
Platonic
guess
Games.
Platonic's not a bad idea though. And yeah, Team 17 doesn't actually own them. It's just ukulele
just
and stuff
work
that's been
for 'em.
designed. Yeah, they've been working for them. So
That's their style. To me, it's their style of game too. So
yeah, 100%. That
put two and two
collectathon
together.
3D platformer works.
and you got yourself a game. If Sony wanted to go down that path,
Yeah,
they could just give them all the money they want, and off you go.
no, I didn't think of them. I really should have thought about them, but it didn't spring to mind in the first place. But they would be a good fit, and like Sony's got no problem. Well, especially in the case of Sly, like the evidence is there already that they've got no problem in sending the franchise off to someone outside of PlayStation who's just got maybe a real passion to create games in that universe. So you did have Sly 1, 2, and 3, which are all Sucker Punch. And then, and it's the exact model we were just talking about before. So Zanzaru, who these days are owned by Facebook, or Meta, or Oculus, or whatever, they like a whole bunch of the co-founders just had this massive love for Sly, so they put together their own vertical slice of the game without consent from PlayStation at all, and then eventually pitched it to them and said, "Hey, this is what we want to make." And they said, "Oh yeah, that seems pretty good. Go and make go and do the remaster for us, and then we'll let you have a crack at a fourth game." And so they did the remaster. That was really successful. They teased Sly 4 in there, and then eventually made it themselves. But this was a team that was outside of PlayStation, who basically had no credits in the bank, really. They made pretty shitty kind of tie-in or kind of shovelware sort of games in the past, but this was clearly like they were saving themselves for a big game. And now these days, like they kind of got traction with Sly, and then they eventually got picked up by Facebook, and they're doing some pretty cool things over there for Oculus. So good on them. But there's no reason why there's not, I guess, another studio like a Platonic that would be a good fit for it. The team I thought of was actually Sumo Digital. The ones who did, well, they've done a fair bit of stuff for PlayStation in the past, but I guess their most recent thing was Sackboy's Big Adventure.
Ah, yes.
So they're already kind of entrenched with PlayStation in terms of working with PlayStation franchises. It's a platformer. They're very, very talented. Now, let's keep in mind that this is also the same team that put together the latest Crackdown game. So not everything is a... Or was it them that did the latest? They did a Crackdown game somewhere along the way. I can't remember now. I'm going to have to double check that. I'll fact check myself as I go. But
was it the one with Terry? Poor Terry.
Yeah, I think so. So I'll double check. But they have done Crackdown in the past. Maybe it wasn't Crackdown 3. No, it was Crackdown 3. It was Crackdown 3.
Oh no.
But like I guess if I kind of rattle off some of the other things that they've done, Sackboy Big Adventures kind of one of the most recent. They did that Hood Outlaws and Legends last year, that multiplayer thing that for a while I thought was going to be awesome until I realized it was multiplayer. Yeah, Crackdown didn't work out well for them. They did Team Sonic Racing, so they've dabbled in racing games. They did Snake Pass. If you remember Snake Pass, that was kind of a platformer, a really fairly popular kind of indie platformer. Little Big Planet 3 they've done. Like they've worked around PlayStation a little bit, and they've worked with some bigger franchises. They've worked with some smaller no names, like more brand new IPs. They've tried different genres out there. They're a pretty talented studio, and I think even if they were they have obviously got evidence of things that haven't worked, like Crackdown. But if you have them working pretty closely with PlayStation, if Sucker Punch is kind of, they've got, so I guess if we focus on Sucker Punch for a moment, they've got about, at last kind of reporting, about 190 members of staff there, which is usually too much for one game. That's probably like 1.5 staff members for a typical PlayStation studio these days. So I wonder if like they couldn't just go, okay, let's send, like we've got 20 people from the team. You guys are working with Sumo on, or whoever it ends up being, or Playtonic, or whoever it ends up being. Like this pocket of 20, you're the ones going to help with Sly, just to make sure they're okay with it. Maybe there's another 20 that then go and help with Infamous as well. We'll obviously get to that one in a sec, but I think that might be the right sort of. Like,
so this sounds like that. What was the developers that did Days Gone? Sounds like this with Naughty
Ben
Dog.
Studio, yeah.
Ben Studio.
Well, yeah, but we know that Sucker Punch is still going to be working on Ghost 2, so they're not getting screwed over in the process. It's more like you guys who aren't quite useful to us right now because we're maybe not up to the point where we need to do, I don't know, motion capture or maybe the writing's done, so now let's send you over and help out here because we don't need you for narrative stuff for a while. That sort of kind of trading team members in and out when their current job is not the thing that's most in need at the time. I don't know, I could see something like that going on. Again, I could see maybe the same thing for Infamous, but you said you were thinking outside of PlayStation initially. Did you have someone inside that you were thinking of that wasn't, I guess, Sucker Punch?
No.
No, that's fine. Neither did I.
I was trying to think really hard, and I thought, I don't think any of the studios would really work. Well, there would be one, but that can be. I'm leaving that one for the Infamous one.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
They could do both, possibly.
All right, that's got me interested. I'm curious to see who you think that'll be. Yeah, I didn't really have any first party ideas as well. Like you could maybe make an argument for like Pixel Opus or Media Molecule, but Media Molecule really likes to do their super arty sort of thing, so I don't think that's the right fit. And Pixel Opus is 20 people, and it took them a long time to go from Entwined to Concrete Genie, and even that was still a very small game that, whilst fantastic, didn't have, like, there wasn't a lot to it. There wasn't a lot of different systems going on, and Sly would require, like, there's stealth, and then there's combat, and all those sorts of things that are going on at levels that Concrete Genie wasn't going for. Not to mention there's a report that Concrete Genie's working on some Sony Films IP of some sort. So, I don't know.
What? The Concrete Genie?
No, but like that, now that Concrete Genie's done, they're working with Sony Films, Sony Pictures on something apparently. I don't quite know what that would be, but
is it something better than Uncharted?
They would be way too small to make an Uncharted. Way too small. 20 people is not. That's 6 or 7 times too small to be able to do anything like that. All right. Well, let's shift over to the Infamous side because I think, well, for me, it's been crystal clear for years. That's obviously the one that I'm personally got. I love Sly, but I've got the biggest stake in Infamous, and obviously you've mentioned you haven't played Sly at all, but you've at least played an Infamous game. So who do you think would be a good fit for Infamous, either starting at PlayStation or outside of PlayStation?
I'll go with outside PlayStation first. I thought about it. Then I thought, would Crystal Dynamics work for an Infamous?
Holy shit. Yes. They obviously know a little bit about superhero games now, even though
they've done the
Avengers didn't work.
They've also worked on Tomb Raider as well, so they can have the old point and shoot.
And they're even doing Perfect Dark these days too with Xbox.
There you go.
So I mean, not that Perfect Dark crosses over all that much, but kind of a gritty sort of tone, like Tomb Raider is something. Like they're getting experience in different genres, I guess.
Also, being your, what would you say, supernatural, futuristic type game as well, being Perfect Dark. Because there is no, or that we know of, there is no alien called Elvis that we know of.
No, not that I'm aware of.
Perfect Dark, no. Or there's no big, giant, green monsters, bug-looking monsters from another planet dressed up as a blonde man. No.
Not that I recall. No.
Not that we know of.
I'm sure they're there. We just don't know about them yet.
We just don't know about
Just
it.
deep in the lore. Yeah, that'd be a good fit. I guess I was maybe a little bit. I had a bit too much tunnel vision because when I was thinking about outside studios, I was still thinking about ones that are kind of independent. I wasn't thinking about, oh, you could go and speak to Ubisoft and get this team to do it, or
Well, I thought Ubisoft. I thought it just doesn't fit Ubisoft.
It does up to a point because Infamous is still that kind of open world. There's a lot of stuff to
parkour,
collect and lots of things to
parkour.
kind of do in the world. So there's that. But yeah, I think like tonally, I don't think they'd know what to do with it.
You can't just go stabbing people all the time. That's not Infamous.
Yeah, it's not quite right. Like, and it's not Tom Clancy style shooter either. So like that's kind of their two fields: is the Assassin's Creed kind of not overly stealthy, but kind of more RPG sort of up close and personal stuff versus, I guess, the third person shooter components that we see. Like the shooting, I guess, is similar-ish to what you can do in Infamous, but yeah, I don't think they'd quite have the right things, despite the fact that the games, the sort of games at their basic level they create are pretty similar. Yeah, I don't think tonally it'd be the right fit. But yeah, Crystal Dynamics is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they got their Tomb Raider games, which does. It's not like Sly, but the same thing. Stealth. They do stealth really well.
Well, we're obviously on Infamous now, but yeah.
I don't know if Infamous. That's what I mean. Yeah, but like you'll say with stealth, but I can't remember if I don't think Infamous had stealth.
No, it wasn't really about stealth.
It was more run. It's pretty much more run and gun.
Yeah, I actually read a quote from Nate Fox this afternoon, like as I was kind of doing a bit of reading into the whole thing, and they're like, we'd done lots of stealth before, so we wanted to specifically create a game. And this, like, they're thinking at the end of Sly 3 as they were starting to cook up Infamous, like, we want to do the exact opposite. We wanted to go and blow shit up. I'm like, okay, checks out.
There you go. And then
it's as subtle as a brick, Infamous.
Yeah. Then that's so. I don't know if with Avengers. I'm pretty sure there's no stealth in Avengers either.
Not that I recall. No. I guess the only thing that's kind of missing for Crystal Dynamics is the fact they haven't done open world stuff. Like Tomb Raider has little bits of it. Like they have the small scale, the wide linear stuff. Like you've got a specific path you're going on, but then you come to these open world little.
Right. But you can also go. Worlds. Yeah, you can go back to the places you visited previously. Your little campfires.
Yeah, so they're kind of. They're close. Like they've developed stuff that's close to the mark. I think it wouldn't be that hard for them to make that final jump. They go, okay, take what you've been doing in these smaller miniature open worlds and just make one world. That's it. Go for your life.
Done.
I'd like to think that'd be possible. That's a really good pick. Who were you thinking of in terms of a studio at PlayStation that could potentially do the job?
PlayStation. Well, there was only one I could think of. I went through all of them. There's
a lot of them now.
Of them. I went through their this website with all their little studios and that, and only one came up. Well, one that I could think of. That was Insomniac.
Yeah, they know what to do with a superhero game.
Because they've done Spider-Man, so they got the whole city thing sorted out. But they've also done Sunset Overdrive as well. So with the only thing I can remember from Infamous is you do grinds on the
grinding. Yeah, there's a lot of grinding
on the rail. And that's Sunset Overdrive for you. And also with not silly upgrades, but like in Sunset Overdrive with your little guns and whatever. Same with Infamous with your little sparkly hands. Thunder hands. It's like with jazz hands, whatever you want to call them.
Your little magical jazz hands. Oh yeah, they'd be a very good fit. I couldn't see it happening just because of all that they're doing. I mean, they're Spider-Man
because
and
they're
Wolverine,
Wolverine game,
and God knows what else because they'll be doing something else too. I'm sure.
And there's probably another Ratchet and Clank game in there too that we don't know about yet as well.
Of course. Yeah, Ratchet will be in there. Who knows, probably Sunset Overdrive potentially.
Let's be honest, they're probably thinking about another Spider-Man game as well because
why not?
Why not?
They sell so much. Like it's crazy what Miles Morales is doing at the moment, sales wise. So yeah, why wouldn't you? Exactly. And yeah, you've obviously got Wolverine on the go, which probably becomes Wolverine 2 at some point. They might even.
Why not?
And if you're Marvel games, you're looking and going, everything else is a bit hit and miss. Now Guardians worked out pretty well, but like everything else is a bit hit and miss. Maybe we just give all of the Marvel IP to PlayStation. Like here, just take them and
let's get into
find teams.
Insomniac. Here, Insomniac.
You
do what you want to.
Forget your 300 or something staff that you've got. We'll make that 1,000, and we want to see 6 Marvel games in production at the same time.
Because you can do it, Insomniac.
You'd believe it's possible with the way that team conducts themselves. They're an incredible team.
Yeah, no such thing as this so-called crunching in other gaming studios.
They've made it clear they don't do that.
They don't do that, and they still get their games done on time.
Well, I remember, and look, this was a long time ago. This was before they got even bought up by PlayStation, but they were obviously still working really closely with them at the time. Like they were winning awards in America for being like the best business to work for and all that sort of stuff. And it had nothing to do with games. Like it wasn't just the best game company to work for. This was like the best companies in the country to work for because of the way they treated their staff and the way everyone was getting paid and all that sort of stuff. And probably a little bit about location and how they support staff and those sort of things. But like they have an incredible reputation for all that sort of stuff, as well as then the games they're creating. So they almost sound like the perfect video game studio.
That'd be true.
I don't think such a thing
sounds. I don't know, or maybe they're proving us wrong.
Anyone at Insomniac that's listening right now,
yes, please tell us about your experiences at Insomniac, and are the rumors true?
What rumors? Oh, about how good they are. Yeah,
how good they are. No, nothing bad. Just we want to hear all the good stuff. Like,
I guess I'll have a more definitive answer for you about that in just a couple of weeks.
Ooh,
just a few weeks.
You can ask the hard questions. Yes or no.
In fact, 14 days from now, I'll be able to have some answers. Well, 14 and a half, like 3 weeks, let's say, because I've got to then put the episode up. Yes, that's a Dev Diary reference, people. So I guess on my side, outside of PlayStation, I actually really struggled across the board to think of who. It's really hard and outside of it.
So it's really hard to try and figure out now because they've all been purchased by Tencent, PlayStation, Xbox.
And I did have that stubborn sort of, but they're like, you're not going to go to, Ubisoft and get them to do it, but of course you could. So it just wasn't. It was that kind of wasn't a train of thought that I was going on for a while there. But one team that did spring to mind, it would be a bit of a change of pace for them, but they do awesome open worlds. Was Techland, so the team who do Dying Light.
Oh, okay.
The open world, they know how to do that kind of gritty sort of edge. They would need to. There's a few little areas they need to polish up on in terms of the way they go about their business. But like they obviously do the parkour really well, the open world really well. Storytelling needs some work, but they just work with people at Sucker Punch probably, or someone, some PlayStation people to get the support they need to tell a good story there. But I think they tick a lot of other boxes, and I guess their games are in first person versus the third person Infamous thing, so there might be a bit of a perspective shift that might cause some issues. But they'd be a really, really good studio for that if you're thinking kind of just independent studios that haven't done that sort of thing. Remedy would be good as well, that quirky sort of style. And I did think
Remedy was one of my other ones too.
Yeah,
I just wasn't sure if you could do a game that just sort of messed with your head. That's what.
It might be a little bit too straightforward for Remedy.
Yeah, for them, because usually Remedy games, you're there, scratch your head, slightly confused, going, "What the hell's going on here?"
Yeah, and I think, I guess like when you are talking about superpowers and that sort of thing, like there's scope for that to still happen. Yeah. Like you could still, especially if they can design, and they're obviously really great storytellers as well. Like if you can get a really good villain that's just constantly fucking with Delson or Cole McGrath or some new or what's her name, Fetch or some new superhero, like it could work.
I'd be into it. Yeah. As I say, Remedy know how to use the Force because that's what they did in Control.
Yeah.
There you go. That
I think
was
that
one of
might be an
my
even better pick than Techland now that we've gone that far. Now that we've really dived into that.
yeah. I say they are just like I said. The story part would be interesting from a Remedy side,
But it's probably easier for them to dial it
and that might be
back
easier.
than like potentially rein themselves in a little bit than it would be to be a Techland and like really upskill and really try and like that when you turn to Remedy, you've got a team of expert writers.
But it could also work in the same thing as well, be that it is a supernatural type of game.
Yeah,
It might work that way as well, just without the confusion of trying to figure out what the hell's going on in some areas. Not all, but like I said, the story could work.
yeah. No,
Just,
I'm with you.
just tone down the
It'd be interesting.
confusion a bit. That's all you
Yeah,
gotta do.
I could get right around this. So yeah, I think I'm more on board with them than I am Techland now. I think I've changed my
Come
tone.
to think of it,
Really thinking about it more, and you throwing some other ideas out there. I think that clicks. On the PlayStation side, I found this one harder. I feel like the only way that could possibly work is if Sucker Punch actually did it themselves. And that's not to say that Ghost doesn't have to happen. Again, they've got a number that's pretty close to two full studio or like two full teams. So you might have to staff up a little bit, but PlayStation or Jim Ryan, and I'm finding fewer reasons to hate on him lately because he's made some smartish sort of moves. I guess the way that they handle Bungie. Yeah, maybe we'll see. Jim Ryan, if you're listening. No, Bungie, like the Bungie acquisition was the right, like if you're going to do it, that was the right way to do it. And there's some other little decisions, like some of the backflips on mistakes that he's made and those sort of things. Like he does seem to be, I guess, hearing some of the feedback that's been sent his way. So like I can respect anyone who's willing to, like, regardless of how many mistakes they make, are willing to try and reflect and do things better. He still isn't out of the woods with me by not by a long shot. And I'll continue to hang shit on him until he's sufficiently proven me wrong on everything. But he's getting there. I think but he mentioned it was only last year, or maybe 2020, sometime after Bethesda was first purchased. So somewhere in the last 18 months, I guess. He did mention that they were going to be spending it, like they increased the amount of spending on their end to not. Well, obviously, since then, they've also gone and bought studios, but also to bolster the studios they already had. And my theory at the time was, yeah, you want to basically turn any team that is just a single team studio into at least a two-team studio. And that shows when you look at Naughty Dog, and they've got like 370 staff. And that's easily your Last of Us remake and whatever comes from The Last of Us going forward, or Uncharted, or the similar sort of deal over at Guerrilla is they've got 350, 360 or something like that. And so that's Horizon Forbidden West and
Resistance.
Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't that? Resistance or Killzone, or obviously some people are on this Horizon Call of the Mountain, the VR game with Fire Sprite, like they're, or whatever else. Like I think they've added, and even Sony Santa Monica these days is in like the mid 200s, so they've got enough for God of War and then some. So, and there's all these constant reports about what Cory Barlog's doing. So I think because he's not the head of God of War this time. So,
oh really?
Yeah, he's not head of the snake when it comes to God of War this time. So, I'm really interested to see what he does. And so I think that's one of the big things that they're doing over there. Is they're, in my opinion, is like, let's turn these into 2+ team studios, and there's some exceptions to that. I don't think they'll ever pump that sort of money into London studio, into Media Molecule, into Pixel Opus, and unfortunately maybe also Bend, because they just cop it every single time. But certainly the ones that like continue to string winners together. Why wouldn't you go, okay, let's Insomniac, you're already knocking out 3 games in 2 years, can we make it 4? Naughty Dog, can we make that 2 in 4 years instead of 1 in 3, that sort of thing. Like it's like there's those sorts of little things that they could work on, and I think, and that would, you don't need to then go, like it's I guess a safer bet than going out and buying a studio and trying to turn them into a studio that can develop games of the same standard of all the studios they've already got. Like, let's just make the studios that we've already got even bigger and better. So I think that might be in the case of Infamous, cycling back to the main point, I think Sucker Punch would be the best fit. It's just, let's build that team out a little bit further, and we can have Ghost 2, Legends, and an Infamous game all in development at the same time. And for those who are at, like, Ghost is a pretty, like, very serious, like, it's got a very specific direction. Not everyone's going to be, like, all the people that were there at Infamous for Ghost were the same people mostly that were there for Infamous in the first place. So they kind of came on board for a very specific sort of game with a very specific sort of tone. And I'm sure not all of them, as much as they might have enjoyed working on Ghost, I'm sure not all of them are super keen to go around with a very ultra serious sort of game again like that. They might want to be looking for explosions and a bit of fun and superpowers. So here you go. Rather than losing you forever, as you go to some other studio or leave PlayStation altogether, why don't we get you working on an Infamous game? So it could work. Whereas I don't think that could happen for Sly, because they just don't. I think that's too far in their past now. I think that kind of chapter is done for them, in the same way that I don't think you'd ever see Naughty Dog go back to Jak and Daxter.
Or Crash Bandicoot.
Well, definitely not Crash, obviously. Xbox owns that now. But,
what?
Yeah, remember Activision.
Right, yeah, okay. Yeah, I gotcha.
So I don't think that'll ever happen. But yeah, but Jak and Daxter for sure. Like, I just don't like that. I think their days with Jak are done, but maybe Jak gets picked up by another studio at some point, or they farm that off because people want it. So, just like Sly, maybe a similar sort of path. But yeah, any other thoughts at all? Any, I guess, some quick ideas on what you'd even like to see from either of the games, from a new Infamous or a new Sly?
Honestly, I don't know. It's been a while since I played Infamous, so I can't really remember what happened.
And for Sly, you just want more wheelchair pets.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Just some... No, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say some more diversity, but that just sounds wrong.
We know what you mean. We know what you're getting at, but yeah, there's a weird potential connotation if you didn't explain that properly. No. Yeah, so we'll dance around that one. We know what you're getting at. Yeah, look, Sly, I think I just want to see more of the same. And they did leave Sly 4 on a cliffhanger as well. I mean, as much as you can have a cliffhanger in a game about like cartoon raccoons and hippos and turtles, but like the story is unfinished, I guess. Infamous, there is a bow on the whole thing, but there's plenty of ways they can open things up again. They've done it in the past. Infamous 2, the actual story path of Infamous 2 was based on the way that the decisions that people made in Infamous 1 and the trophy data specifically. It was just like, okay, the majority of people chose the good ending, so let's go with that. So there's things that they could do based on choices that people made in Infamous 2, or even if they want to look at Second Son and go, okay, this is what happened here, and they can bring back Cole, they can bring back Delson, they can go with someone new. Fetch could get her own full game, whatever it happens to be. They've got a few different choices, so I don't really know, but I like the path that they've gone on with the powers recently, giving you a lot more flexibility, more of that. Any other thoughts at all?
No, I was going to say, with which PlayStation developer, I also thought Sucker Punch as well, but if they worked in with, I don't know, was it Valkyrie?
Oh, yeah.
Working with them.
Yeah, because that's a team that PlayStation's bought recently.
Yeah, and then they can work in with them and do something with that.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, Valkyrie helped out, with God of War, for example.
And they also did Shadow of War, Halo. So they're good at
that's not bad. Yeah, I guess I didn't even think it. Yeah, that other prospect. There's some of these kind of assistance studios. They're not like they're not actual teams that develop their own games, but they'll just go, okay, we need to send 40 people over here, 20 people over there, whatever it is, and they're not working on their own stuff. They're helping with everyone else's. That's also an option, to help, I guess, flesh out those Sucker Punch numbers. Good thinking. I like it.
I've done too much thinking on this one.
Well, on that note there, we'll wrap things up. You, the listener/viewer, please let us know what you think about Sly, Infamous, whether the rumours are going to end up being true. If they are, what do you think happens? Do we see remakes and remasters? Who develops the new games in the franchises? All that sort of thing. Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, whatever the case happens to be. But if you enjoyed that episode of Patched, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. All the buttons down below. Hit the notification bell. That way you're alerted to every new video the moment it goes live on the channel. That includes more Patched, Player 2 plays, Gamer School, and a whole bunch more. Visit the website, player2.net.au, for reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, features, links to the podcast series, Patched, the Player 2 Pixelcast, and Dev Diary, where, as has been teased in this episode, there's an Insomniac-related person coming on the show sometime soon. So that's going to be pretty cool. And actually a really, really cool episode going up this Thursday, and I've mentioned Dying Light this episode. We've got someone who worked on Dying Light 2 going on the show this week. So some cool guests over the course of the next few weeks. Go check all that out. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, kicking a few bucks. Lower tiers early access, high tiers monthly episode exclusives. And finally, Twitter, Matto.
Matto_Phil.
Paul James Games for me. The website is player2au. And before we finish, we've already done a shout out for this on the show previously. But Matto, you recently got the platinum in... Oh no, you did the Umbrella run. You haven't got the platinum. You've done the Umbrella run for Death's Door. And people should stay tuned to the Play 2 YouTube channel, because your full playthrough of the game in Umbrella mode, as we'll dub it, is... Did I just come up with the name for the series?
Yeah, we've come up with the name.
Umbrella mode
Umbrella.
is going to be going live on the Play 2 YouTube channel over the course of the next few weeks. So tune in, catch that one, because you've uploaded the first few episodes. I haven't actually seen any of them yet. I haven't checked them out myself yet, but I'm sure it's going to be pretty fascinating, because knowing my experience from the Umbrella run, as I finish, by the way, my final beer that Doug sent from that batch.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, mine took a few weeks.
I was expecting that. Like, postage in this place is just... If someone says enter, like, just give it time.
I mentioned this to you off camera last time, but I guess listeners, for a bit of insight, there was a social media thing there between ourselves and Doug from Power Up PR, who works with Devolver, and so allowed us to get access to Death's Door and everything back in the day when it came out last year. Made a little bet with you specifically, Matto, that if you did the Umbrella run, you'd get a slab. Which I then did the Umbrella run. Sorry, a case, I guess, to use his language.
Depending how you use it, I don't know. But that was his words.
I then did the Umbrella run first. Got sent beers. You've now done it. You've got the same.
You did the platinum, and he's gone, I'll give you some beer. He's like, I did play. He's like, all right, I'll send you some beer too.
But the platinum's not the hard bit. If you can get the Umbrella run, the platinum's easy.
The Umbrella part's the hardest part.
Yeah, the Umbrella's hard. So,
or if you miss a certain objective on the first two bosses.
Yeah.
But
that too, yeah. But that's not even hard. That's just tedious, because you got to go back and do it again. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind that whole thing. It's there. It's for people to check out. I'm sure you make plenty of references to it in the show itself, but that's the origins of the whole thing. And who knows what we'll do in the future? There's some cool games coming out from Devolver. Maybe we'll be teeing up more dumb bets with Doug in the future.
Yeah, I will just be clear here. If you do the Umbrella challenge, if you do it with an Umbrella as well,
you're not getting any
beer.
We can't guarantee what Doug's going to do. You
can't tweet Doug and say, hey, I did the Umbrella too. He'll just tell you to go away.
He might well tell you to go away. It's not because we're better than you or anything like that, but I don't think Doug wants to keep sending out more beers. He's already probably given out more than he expected.
Because Doug knows we love the game, and from day one.
Yeah, we were there before it was cool to like Death's Door.
We approved of it when it came out at E3's showcase. We said straight away our favorite game from that showcase was Death's Door.
And then it came out, and it was my game of the year. Was it yours in the end? I can't remember.
No, it was second to start off with, because I wasn't that far into it, and then I finished it, and then I said, nah, it's game of the year.
Good. I can't remember. I should remember, because the patches weren't that long ago. Okay, we'll wrap things up. We've probably rambled for another 5 minutes since actually doing the Twitter handles. As always, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next week.